Hi everyone, today we got more continuation on the session, continuing to go higher here seemingly every day, getting above 679.95 as that zone of resistance. Got above that during the session and we're holding right at it. In the after hours, can we push above that and push to this trend in here around 685? Let's take a quick look at all of the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, we got an MIT study saying that AI can already replace approximately 12% of the US workforce, which is a huge number, of course. If this ends up being reality, this is going to be devastating for the economy, and this would bring a lot of questions kind of more in the political environment. But of course, for these AI companies, and really for any of these companies that are going to bring AI and be able to become more efficient, that is, of course, super bullish. Here you can see as much as approximately $1.2 trillion in terms of finances, healthcare, professional service could be replaced, which is a huge number. And that would effectively become profits for these companies because you're no longer putting out that money. I'm sure there would be some costs integrating AI and some other associated businesses alongside of that, but of course this would be much more efficient for these companies, which means price to earnings would be significantly higher than it is right now. Moving over to fear and greed, we're at an 18 from a 15 on the slight rally that we got today. You can see not even into regular fear on the bounce that we've got, despite the fact that it's been pretty aggressive. You can see momentum's into regular fear, but just about every other metric here is in extreme fear still. Put call ratio continues to come down just a little bit, volatility falling back below that 50-day moving average, and then safe haven demand and junk bond demand still in extreme fear. Moving over to the economic calendar, initial jobless claims a little bit lower than expectations there. That's good. 7-year note auction pretty much in line with the previous. Atlanta Fed GDP very good there, and really pretty good across the board. You can see core durable numbers and headline durable goods orders in line with expectations there. So that was good enough to keep markets bolstered. Tomorrow, not much. Of course, you got markets closed for Thanksgiving, and then you have just a half day here on the Friday. So not much at all on the economic calendar for the end of the week. Moving over to the charts, looking here, you can see we got another rally up a little bit over 0.5%. Momentum still stepping to bullish here. We're at this kind of critical point, kind of a shadow structure zone in here. Got to that top of that zone, overthrew it, got to that level 680 where we expected to get to after the break of 672. Continues to go there. If we get above this, then you're looking for trend in here around 685 or potentially as high as 694. But right now, we're kind of in the zone of hesitation, still very much bullish, definitely a little bit extended in the short term, a little bit of volume selling at the end of the session, which makes sense with this kind of lower high structure. Are we going to push through that? That's the big question. If we reject from here, then you should expect a pretty substantial fall, probably back down at least into the 660s here, maybe as low as that 658 level. That's been support the last two iterations. Maybe we kind of hesitate in here, give you a more full right shoulder like this before the bigger sell. All possibilities to continue to watch, but watching this zone closely as we finished right in that area of resistance. Moving over to the Tasty charts here, you can see we hit that upper ATR band, and then we continued to push through there, continuing to grind along that upper ATR band. Continues to look bullish. Not a ton of volume on the session. Would like to see this continue to kind of hold between that 8 EMA and that upper ATR band as that continues to grind slowly higher on the session. And then looking at that hourly chart, still very much bullish again, hitting that upper band, pulling back, holding the 8 EMA. Everything looks good there. And then looking at that daily chart, this can get as high as 692.06 and still be in bearish conditions. That is the all-time high. If we can get through that, that would be bullish for the daily chart. But of course, on the short time frames, everything is bullish. Moving over to the NASDAQ doing the same kind of thing, pushing up early in the session, kind of chopping sideways. Mid-session, we're above that level, 611.75, above the 21 EMA as well. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Looks like this is going to continue to push here. We were at this kind of trend resistance area, push through that, push through the level, everything continuing to look really bullish here. If this is going to be a right shoulder, we're already a little bit above that left shoulder, so it still could be, but this is starting to look a little bit more like we're going to push towards at least a double top in that kind of 636 area. Moving over to the daily chart on the NASDAQ here on the Tasty charts, you can see that trailing stop right there at the high back from the end of October, right there at 634.95, 635 area. I bought here just above this breakout here on the close above all of those levels, looking for a little bit more push in here to kind of 625, 630 potentially. We're a little bit extended for sure in the short term, but structurally everything is hanging in there. And you can see it on the 4-hour chart, hitting that upper band, continuing to kind of grind here. Might pull back to the 8 EMA down at that 611 area, but that's the level I was watching on the regular charts anyway. Either way, continues to look relatively bullish in here. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell having another good day, a 0.89 to the upside. It is finally starting to slow just a little bit in this kind of trend area in this previous all-time high area. Momentum still bullish, RSI still bullish. Everything looks really, really strong. After the breakout above 244, continues to just kind of step its way through there. And then the Dow retesting this structure here. Technically a little bit above it, just kind of depends on how you drew it. Maybe right there makes more sense at this kind of low to this high here. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Everything says this could potentially push through there. And if it does, of course, that would be very much more bullish. And then you'd start to look for these zones of resistance up here around kind of the 490 area. But right now, this looks like a breakdown retest, potential for more breakdown. Moving over to the Mag 7. Mag 7 very slightly positive here, again up 0.5%. Tried to go higher, hit that 55 EMA area, momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Not a ton of volume as we head into Thanksgiving, but everything continues to look relatively good. Your support still 357 and that 21 EMA now at 363.40. And this should have a little bit more legs to the upside, just based off how much room there is in these indicators. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple was up about a quarter, Microsoft up 1.78%, coming off really strong from that 466 level. That was the zone. We were in here for 3 days, saw a little bit of volume, and then we got the gap up to that 9 EMA. This is still very much a short-term downtrend, but in that counter-trend rally, we're getting a nice little pop. Maybe this goes to the 21 EMA in here, around 500, 144 EMA in there as well, around 496. So structurally very different. Apple still hanging above the level 275.91. If it can hold that, still bullish. If it breaks down, obviously that's going to be a little bit more bearish, but right now Microsoft looks like a little better trade. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla up 1.71% or about $7. Zone of resistance in here, 21 EMA, 55 EMA. Talked about that zone being in zone of resistance in here, kind of that 429, 430 area. If it rejects from there, that's going to be bearish. If you can get through there, you're probably going to 450 or as high as kind of 470 potentially. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. And then looking at NVIDIA here, got the bounce back into the zone, that 180 to 184 area. It's below it in the after hours. Okay, maybe this is more of a distribution style move here with a fake out here, consolidation. If that is the longer term structure, this is going to be pretty catastrophic for NVIDIA. Moving over to Amazon and Broadcom here. Amazon caught a little bit of a bounce over the last couple of days, momentum swinging there, but RSI, it's right here. Is it going to reject from there? That's concerning, right? We got to that zone 233 as well. Potentially a zone of resistance. Again, kind of distribution, kind of interesting here, right? Sideways consolidation, tried to go higher, back into this consolidation. Usually that is not very good. That could be distribution style price action. And then on the opposite side of that, you got Broadcom looking very, very strong. Breakout here above the all-time highs. We were right at it yesterday, and now we are at all-time highs on Broadcom, looking to push to kind of 400. Didn't quite hit that today, maybe 420. If we extend these trend structures out, that would take you way higher into the kind of 480 area, but everything looks really, really strong here on Broadcom. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, you got staples rocketing higher here, 1% higher, right to that next level, 78.88, closed above it, pushed through that trend structure, momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Everything looks really, really good there. And then discretionary is looking good here today, up about 0.75%. 235.85 was that zone of resistance, and that is still a zone of resistance here. Trend structure resistance 55, EMA resistance there as well at 236.32. Moving over to breadth here looking quite a bit stronger. Really concerned about that 50-day. Really both of them honestly getting above some of these levels that we've seen. 70-day at 70, 68, 14 was the level. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish, starting to get to some of those higher levels. And then 50-day breaking the structure, right? That 55 EMA has been resistance the last several months, and now we're above it, pretty strongly above it. We had a strong candle yesterday, strongly above it here, 52.81. Looks like this could go maybe to that 70 area. That would be interesting, and then we'll see what happens after that. But this is a pretty significant change on breadth. Moving over to the dollar continues to sell here a little bit. Pretty strong candle yesterday, pretty strong candle to the downside here today. Back below that 99.83 level. Don't love all of that. Back below the 21 EMA. This was a bit of a test here. Maybe we come to here and hold. That would be interesting, but right now momentum momentum bearish, RSI bearish. Moving over to bonds. Bonds looked really good here today. It was a strong candle up yesterday. We expected continuation on that for J&K, and that is what we got. Right to that 97.69 area, momentum bullish, RSI bullish. And then even TLT getting a pretty nice move there, up almost a 0.5%. If this can get through this high here, that's what we're watching right here, right? 90.71. If we can get through there, then we're looking for this high around 92, and then 92.82 would be that next zone. Moving over to the VIX here, you can see the VIX is down even more today. That marks 4 days in a row of falling. We're in a zone below all of the supports now, so you should expect this to fall closer to that 1470 area. And if we get in there, then we could be looking for something more like this, where markets just kind of grind higher slowly. And that would be kind of the culmination move. It's a little bit of a weak move, surprisingly so, but it does seem like this could potentially fall into here and go back to some calmer conditions. And then looking at my accounts here, I did put on a covered call for the Qs at 616. I think we could see a little bit more upside, watching that 611 area as a zone of support. Got a $2 credit on that, so the buy price was effectively 613, which was a fine buy price, a little bit above where I wanted to be, but markets continue to run away. Either way, in good position here, not too worried about it. You can see where we closed. We're up a little bit more after hours, and then this dollar position getting a little bit away from me. Probably should have taken it off at those levels. Really hoping for a push to 100, and that structure is starting to change now, but either way, looking for a little bit more bullishness in equities. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of AI closing down potentially as much as 12% of jobs, 12% of productivity in markets. Is that a good thing? And who is it good for? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.